Welcome back to Suzuka for race 2 of the Saturday series. This is the final of our 4 races at Suzuka, and let's run down the grid because I don't really have anything else to add. Taking the first ever pole for the Callaway C7 is Nino Schultz, starting a reverse grade pole with Dean Reimers joining him on the front row, representing Golden Bolt Racing. Spalding GT's Mark Klabzul and championship leader and John Slow Racing driver Ben Schwari make up row 2, row 3, Mike Magasevich and Mark Minahan, the all Golden Bolt roll. Row 4, Stefan Gervais of John Slow Racing, Wesley Stokes of Team Shashma, and then the two men who led the way on the first race, Mike Mark of Zagato Piston and John Slow Racing's Martin Lauer will start from 9th and 10th. Alan Angel will start from 11th, followed by Dule Markovic of Zagato Piston, Adam Dixon, Team Shashma's Rick Martel, Thomas Waz, and James Gill. They've gotten the Corvette Z06 ready for the race. And we are off. Looks like a pretty decent start from Nino Schultz, but we know that the man who is on third in the grid, Mark Klabzul, always very fast off the start, and there he goes. Ben Schwari also a fantastic start up into second place. So the second row has overtaken the first row. Reimers has fallen back along with Schultz, and Schultz and Reimers have collided. Magasevich collides. Minahan's off. Mike Marcus off. Oh my, it's a mess. Dule Markovic is flipped around backwards. Dean Reimers going across the grass. Just a massive incident there, started by the Nino Schultz incident with Dean Reimers. So let's reset the grid real quickly. Mark Klabzul leads the race from Ben Schwari. Wesley Stokes and Martin Lauer come through the grid to 3rd and 4th already, followed by Mark Minahan in 5th, 6th place for Gervais, 7th for Magasevich, 8th for Alan Angel, 9th for James Gill, up from the back of the pack and kicking butt. Rounding off the points is Adam Dixon, followed by Mike Mark down to 11th place. Rick Martel is 12th. Reimers 13th, 14th for Markovic, 15th for Waz, and 16th for Nino Schultz, who goes from pole position to the back of the field. Ben Schwari putting the pressure on Mark Klabzul. He was putting the pressure pretty much all race on Mike Magasevich and was unable to get past him. So while he is definitely the faster driver, you have to wonder if he's got a move in him. But Mark Klabzul opens the door, getting a bit wide through the sweepers. Can he hold it? He'll have the inside line for 1030R. Let's see here. Let's ride on board with Mark Klabzul here. He is coming into 10:30. He is going to cede the position to Ben Schwari, it appears, and slide into second place. Schwari to the lead of the race. In third place is Martin Lauer, who's gotten past Wes Stokes. Minahan, Gervais, Magasevich are holding place. James Gill getting around the outside of Alan Angel into 1030R. Lewis a little bit wide. We'll see if Angel, the Guatemalan, can come back at him. Doesn't look like it so far, so it looks like 8th place for James Gill. Adam Dixon still bringing up the last points pay position ahead of Mike Mark, Rick Martel, Dean Reimers. Nino Schultz has gotten past Tom Waz, and Dule Markovic has had a moment, it would appear, and dropped back to the back of the pack. As we head into lap 2, Ben Schwari still leading the way from Mark Klabzul, and then Martin Lauer, who's really the threat to him, I think. Wesley Stokes is under a lot of pressure from Mark Minahan. He doesn't seem to really be on the pace here. A podium contender in race 1 is getting the screws put to him by the Australian Minahan. Gervais is right there, as well as Magasevich down to 7th place. Gill is coming on strong as well, and having lost a spot to Gill, Alan Angel is going to lose another one here to Mike Mark. By the way, Mike Mark had gotten around Adam Dixon at some point, who seems to have dropped way to the back of the pack. What has happened to Dixon? Looks like Dixon is done. I do not see the Mercedes anywhere. So Adam Dixon has retired from the race. And in the meantime, at some point, we saw second place change hands. Martin Lauer has taken the spot from Mark Klabzul. I'm going to bet this was probably in the Degnas. Looks like I'm a little off. It comes in the post Degnas. Looks like a slowdown penalty for Mark Klabzul, and through goes Martin Lauer. Wesley Stokes is still under a lot of pressure forming up a little bit of a train that involves Mark Minahan, Stefan Gervais, Mike Magnuson, not too far off, James Gill, and Mike Mark will be coming as well. And then it is Alan Angel and Rick Martel 11th place. Schultz is up to 12th, followed by Waz, Reimers, and Markovich. We've lost the Mercedes of Adam Dixon already in this race. Ben Schwarry in the lead. I was saying in race 1 that it was a bit of a blessing that he didn't do as well in race 1. It did allow him a high-end starting position, starting from P4, as befits his 7th place finish in race 1. And a great start by both him and Mark Klapzul. They overtook the front row, and he's putting Klapzul behind him now, but he's going to worry about his teammate Martin Lauer, because Martin Lauer has said that he fancies himself a championship contender still, despite missing a couple of rounds this season due to some health issues. Because he has been absolutely on fire. He was the race 1 winner here. Mark Klapzul still hanging on to 3rd place. He's starting to be caught, though, by the group of Wesley Stokes, Mark Minahan, and Stefan Gervais. You can see Mike Magasevich, Mike Mark, and James Gill in the background. Mark has gotten past James Gill. Let's have a look at how that happened, perhaps. The Zagato Piston Man getting past the recently going independent James Gill. We talked about it in race 1. This is his first time out here with an independent team, racing with a Corvette Z06 as opposed to the BMW he's been in all season long. And we were saying that there may have been some problems, and that may have led to the race 1 retirement. He slipped down to 9th place now, but still 9th place despite a 16th on the grid. Pretty hefty climbing, helped out by the incidents. Looks like another victim of the hairpin, actually. Gill just going off on his own. We've seen that at the hairpin a number of times. It's a tricky turn. Not much else going on at the moment. Ben Schwarry cruising in the lead as he heads over to 1030R. Martin Lauer, I'd say maybe minusculely closer than last we looked at it, but not in striking distance as of yet. Mike Magasevich can't seem to quite stay with this train. Disappointing start for him. He had a collision with Dean Reimers and that put him back. Now in 7th place, having started in 5th. Mind you, not as bad as Dean Reimers, whose front row grid position has currently turned into a pretty horrific 14th place. And the pole sitter, Nino Schultz, not a lot better in 12th. They got off to a bad start, then had a collision, big pile up in turn 1 or 2, and that's how it goes sometimes. It's a shame that Callaway Corvette will not get a chance to really prove itself. We're expecting to see it lead at least a couple of laps. Schwarry still hanging on to lead from Martin Lauer. Mark Klapzul in 3rd. Wesley Stokes putting pressure on him. Minahan's right there, as is Gervais. Magasevich is a little bit off the back end in 7th. He's got Mike Mark coming for him. In 8th place is James Gill. In 9th place is James Gill. 10th place, Alan Angel. 11th is Rick Martel. 12th, Nino Schultz. 13th, Tom Waz. 14th, Dean Reimers. 15th, Dule Markovich. Mike Mark now right up on the back of Mike Magasevich, who proved in race 1 he is a difficult man to pass, holding up Ben Schwarry for most of the race en route to a 6th place finish. See if he can defend against Mike Mark, who's known as a bit more of an aggressive driver and definitely one with less to lose. We were talking about how Ben Schwarry still has a championship to think about. Mike Mark really doesn't. He's a guest driver here today. Went forward in 1030R, but did not make it happen. He was a little bit slow into the chicane. Magasevich will retain 7th place for now. Tom Waugh is under pressure from Dean Reimers, looking to get around him into 13th position. Dule Markovic in the background is the last running car. We lost Adam Dixon in this race already, with some electrical failure. Most interesting battle of the race looks like it's going to be Magasevich again as he takes on Mike Mark. Mike Mark representing Zagato Piston and the Golden Bolt entry of Mike Magasevich. These two teams are in the battle for a for a team's title along with John Slow Racing. No Academy Cup at stake as Mike Mark is not eligible for the Academy Cup. Meantime, this is all playing into the hands of James Gill, you have to think, as he's coming on strong in that Z06. Another battle that might heat up is this last points-paying position. Alan Angel going up against Rick Martel. Martel, a pretty disappointing first race, finished in 14th position and would love to make a comeback here and grab some points. His own championship cause, not quite dead, although suffering at the moment. Tom Waugh still holding off Dean Reimers as both men go a little bit wide in the sweepers. Dule Markovic in the background there with a much cleaner run. Slowdown penalty for Waugh is going to cost him 13th position, and that's Reimers through. Again, interesting note, the Vice Speedworks car of Tom Waugh is a McLaren, but it is not the McLaren that we've seen throughout the season with Michael Schneider, Alan Angel, and company. That's the 650S. This is the MP12. He is under pressure from Markovic. Getting very wiggly through the chicane. We'll see if this opens up into the first two turns for a move for Markovic. I think it will. That BMW Z4 has far more grunt in a straight line and basically breezes past the Canadian into 14th position. Schwari's still in the lead, but Martin Lauer is getting closer. Wesley Stokes has banged his way past Mark Klapzul at some point into 3rd place, but I feel like this 3rd place could go to any one of these 4 cars. No one has really put their stamp on it as being the fastest car, and certainly this has been a track that has induced enough mistakes that even if you get a lead, it's certainly not safe. Let's ride with Mark Klapzul here. Looks like he just gets a little bit too much of a curb. And through goes Wesley Stokes onto the podium, paying 3rd position. And Klapzul manages to close the door on the Golden Bolt entry of Mark Minahan. Magasevich still holding up Mike Mark, and James Gill is coming on strong. And another battle for position is Rick Martel versus Alan Angel for this last points paying position. Angel gets way too much of the curb. And through goes Rick Martel into 10th place. Nino Schultz would also like a piece of this. He's had to wave his podium or his pole position goodbye, and he's down in 12th place. Quick recap: Schwari in 1st, Lauer 2nd, 3rd is Stokes, 4th is Klapzul, 5th is Minahan. The lead Academy car is the 6th place car of Stefan Gervais, followed by Mike Magasevich, 7th place, 2nd in the Academy. Then it is Mike Mark. Then it is James Gill, 3rd in the Academy race, 9th on track, and Rick Martel rounding off the points. In the meantime, Alan Angel, 4th in the Academy Cup section of this race, and 5th in the Academy's Cup section here. Nino Schultz are absolutely having a war over 11th place. That McLaren 650S is a great handling car, but the grunt of the Callaway may be the determining factor. Thinks about going on the inside of 1080R, but Nino Schultz thinks better of it for now. Goes to the inside at the hairpin, but he does not make the corner, and that's going to let Alan Angel off the hook and retains 11th place for now. Schwari still in the lead. We're on lap 6 of a theoretical 8 laps. Looks like he's pulled out a little bit more of a gap on Martin Lauer. Wesley Stokes is pulling away finally. Stefan Gervais, Mark Minahan. Gervais has gotten past Minahan. What has happened to Mark Clapp Zul? He was 4th place ahead of Minahan and Gervais. Looks like Gervais has taken both of them. And Minahan has gone off the track. Or pardon me, Clapp Zul's gone off the track. Minahan has picked up a spot in the mix as well. What has happened to the Dutch driver? Looks like we're going to have a mishap here into the chicane. Okay, so Gervais had taken Minahan prior to this, so let's go back far enough to see that as well. Alright, we ride on board with Stefan Gervais. Clapp Zul gets a little bit wide out of the sweepers. Mark Minahan fancies his luck at going for 4th place. Clapp Zul with a hard chop to defend position. That's what costs Minahan the spot as Gervais takes it because he has to recover. And then we go into 1030R. And then into the chicane. We know that there's a problem with the chicane for Clapp Zul. He gets very slow through here. And then... Gervais gets him in the butt. So he had a helping hand from Stefan Gervais. Did Mark Clapp Zul. Let's see what that looked like inside the cockpit. He did go very slowly into the chicane, so I'm interested to see how that worked as well. Just really had to get hard on the brakes, and then whoop, round he goes. No doubt a very angry Dutchman there. Agasevich, Mike Mark, James Gill, who are a little 3-man train themselves. They go through, and that puts Mark Clapp Zul back into 9th position. Rick Martel is on his tail now. Alan Angel, despite getting passed relatively easily by Martel, is keeping with him. Nino Schultz is also in the picture as well. Dean Reimers, Dule Markovic, and Tom Was having comparatively lonely races. So still in the lead is Ben Schwari. We said he looks like he's opened up a little bit more of a gap to Martin Lauer. Wes Stokes is in 3rd. Gervais is now in 4th, having benefited from that. Although one would think the race stewards may be investigating his contact with Mark Clapp Zul. Mark Minahan taking that spot back into 4th place. But imagine also Clapp Zul may be under investigation as well for the chop on Minahan. But we'll see what happens. So that promotes Magasevich into 6th place, ahead of Mike Mark and James Gill, 7th and 8th. 9th, Clapp Zul, 10th, Martel, 11th, Angel, 12th, Schultz, who's I think had another off, it looks like. He's quite a ways back now of Alan Angel. Then Reimers, Markovic, and Was. Mark Minahan had found it very hard to shake Stefan Gervais all race, but now he suddenly seems to have found the pace. One would wonder if possibly there's been some damage to Gervais's car in the contact with Mark Clapp Zul. And the battle continues. Mike Magasevich held off Ben Schwari for much of race 1, and he's doing the same to Mike Mark here in race 2. They head into the chicane. James Gill's dropped a little bit back off of this battle. Probably just wanting to see what happens in front of him. But if he drops back too far, he's going to fall into the clutches of Mark Klapzul, his former teammate at DTM BMW. Although the problem there for Klapzul may be in this man, Rick Martel coming up to put the pressure on him for 9th place. Martel at a disastrous 14th place in race 1. He is up 4 spots into the points. Biggest faller, though, by far is Nino Schultz, dropping 11 spots to 12th and 11 spots to 13th for Dean Reimers as well. And the big climber is the man who started dead last and has climbed his way up into 5th position. I feel like we may have casters cursed Mike Magasevich and Mike Mark. They may have had themselves an incident. We were saying that James Gill was perhaps licking his chops, kind of waiting to see what would happen. So it looks like both cars are off. Is this a contact or is this a problem? So it looks like Mike Magasevich is very late on the brakes. Then what happens to Mike Mark? He seems to get a slowdown penalty and goes quite wide himself and then onto the grass. So not sure what happened there. Perhaps some debris or slipperiness from the race 1 incident that occurred there. And that's going to put Mark Klapzul and Rick Martel suddenly in a position to do a little bit more than fight over 9th. In the meantime, still in the lead is Ben Schwarry. He has led most of this race. He's taking the lead from Mark Klapzul. Martin Lauer in 2nd place. Fantastic race for him. Wesley Stokes has come through the grid pretty nicely to a 3rd place at the moment, but he is losing ground to Mark Minahan, who seems to really have found some pace that he didn't seem to have in race 1, and hasn't really seemed to have most of the season. So let's see what the Golden Bolt Australian can do as he tries to run down a podium. Stefan Gervais just being left really kind of for dead in 5th place. He's the top Academy driver. And Mike Magasevich and Mike Mark have gotten back past James Gill. So James Gill has had to have gone off somewhere in this mix. What has happened to the classic Corvette? The hairpin strikes yet again. Corvette losing control, and Magasevich and Mark will split the difference and say thank you for giving us 6th and 7th place back. We've been fighting over this for a while. We will resume the fight. Mark Klapzul coming to play as well. I don't see Rick Martel. Has he dropped back a little bit too far to really be part of this battle? He's still there, but he definitely doesn't seem to have quite the pace to stay with them. Check back in with that battle for most of the final lap, I think. Just a quick rundown heading into final lap. It's Schwarry from Lauer from Stokes, Minahan, Gervais, Magasevich, Mike Mark. Collision between the background there between Mark Klapzul and James Gill. We're going to go have a look at that again. So it looks like they got close. It looks like James Gill may have gone for it into 1030R. And gotten pushed wide by Mike Mark. Let's have a look-see here. And it wasn't into 1030, it was just after 1030. We're getting a lot more momentum through it. But yeah, either Klapzul late on the brakes or early on the brakes for Gill. I'm not sure which. We saw Klapzul be the victim of that at the hands of Stefan Gervais. So a little bit of retribution though on the wrong driver, I think. I think that battle may be getting slightly testy. Mike Magasevich, in the meantime, has gotten a bit of a gap to Mike Mark now, who had to fight off the attempt by James Gill. Mark Klapzul is now off the track. Don't tell me there's contact. Didn't look like there was contact, although the car behaved as such. Perhaps a bit of lag issue. James Gill ends up off the track. Alan Hill picks up a spot. Gill will probably rejoin in 10th place. Indeed, is that 11th place? That is 11th place now. So in the lead, Ben Chouari's had a comparatively quiet race. Martin Lauer's had a fairly quiet race as well. The recipient of a lot of carnage on lap 1 allowed him to get up through the field. Wesley Stokes will probably take home the podium, despite the fact that that gap to Mark Minahan, pardon me, is getting smaller by the lap, it seems. So if Minahan had a couple more laps, I think he could make a real lunge at this. I don't think he has the time, though. Gervais will probably be the Academy winner, though he will probably be dragged in front of the stewards for his contact with Mark Klapzul. Mike Magasevich is in 6th place. He may inherit that top spot for the Academy Cup. We will see. He's a little bit far back, so it would have to be a pretty stringent penalty. Mike Mark is in 7th place. 8th place is now Rick Martel, who has gotten past Mark Klapzul at some point, and Alan Angel rounding off the points at the moment. Klapzul getting a bit wide into the sweepers. Very wide. He's having a hard time. Alan Angel's coming, and through goes the Fallen Angel racing car. Into 9th place. A fantastic run from Alan Angel in the late part of this race. Seeing off the challenge of Nino Schultz. Losing that spot to Rick Martel, but staying close enough to pounce if the opportunity presented itself, and it did. Meantime, we have confirmed victory for Ben Chouari, for Martin Lauer, Wesley Stokes, Mark Minahan, Stefan Gervais. Mike Magasevich is going to come home in 6th place. Mike Mark loses it and spins it over the finish line, but he will still finish in 7th, ahead of Rick Martel, Alan Angel, and James Gill. We lost Mark Klapzul at the end there. What happened to Klapzul? It looks like he's done. We lost him right at the end. The car died. And it's going to be James Gill who picks up a points-paying position as a result. Picks up the single point. And Hell moves up to 9th place. Reimers and Nino Schultz are 12th and 13th respectively. Or pardon me, I think 13th and 12th actually. And coming home in 14th position is Tom Waas. So that is the Suzuka round. We're off to the Norris Ring next for the street circuit on the calendar. A short track, but one that breeds contact, one that breeds chaos. So it should be an interesting race. Until then, well, just stay on the track.